Hello, my name is Brandon Evert, and thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Extracting Wisdom. Today, it's all about the DAT, so stick around. So welcome to episode number 6, guys. I just want to take this moment to thank each and every one of you for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. Keep on listening, keep on contacting me, and most importantly, keep striving to be the best future dentist you can be. In this episode, I'm going to be giving you an overview of the DAT. We'll be talking about the content, how to sign up, and how to best prepare yourself to take this test. So first things first, let's talk about the overall format or layout of the dental admission test, or the DAT. And it's divided into 4 major sections. The first one is the survey of the natural sciences, and that includes 40 questions of biology, 30 questions of general chemistry, and 30 questions of organic chemistry. And you'll have a total of 90 minutes to complete all of those 100 questions. Now, I will say the section to focus on most here is definitely the biology section because it has the widest range of material. So you're going to see questions coming from molecular biology, physiology, anatomy, taxonomy, a whole wide range of subjects. The general chemistry and the organic chemistry are actually, in my opinion, a lot easier than the biology section because there's only a certain amount of topics or types of questions they can ask you. The organic chemistry section, for example, as long as you know your reagents and your synthesis pathways, you are going to do fantastic on that section. General chemistry, similar thing. You can expect things like molecular weight, molecular mass, combustion problems, your stoichiometry problems, those basic things. But like I said, biology is the biggest thing to focus on. So the best way to study for the biology section is to just do as many practice problems as you possibly can. One thing I tell all of my members in the Hoosier Dental Club is to utilize the 90-10 rule. And what this means, this is something that I read in a paper, but it actually really helped me when I took the DAT. What this means is devote 10% of your time to understanding the types of questions you'll be asked, the general layout of the exam, and the types of strategies that you'll be using. That should only encompass 10% of your total study time. The remaining 90% should just be practice questions. Practice questions are absolutely vital because it's going to help reveal to you what topics or what subjects you need to allocate the most time to. And this is really going to be helpful when you're studying for the biology section, just because, as I said, there's so much information and so many different topics that are covered. So something I personally did is whenever I got a question wrong when I was practicing, I would take a little Post-it note and I would write down that question and the correct answer, and I'd stick it to my bathroom mirror. So every morning and every night when I'm brushing my teeth and flossing, as all good pre-dental and dental students should, that's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, of studying time. You can just bounce your eyes around your mirror and look at all the Post-it notes you have up there, and you're studying, which is I found really useful. But you can also make flashcards, do whatever you want, but really hit those areas hard, the ones that you find yourself struggling with the most. Okay, so that kind of sums up the first section and some useful study tips. Section number 2 is the PAT, or the Perceptual Ability Test. This is arguably the hardest portion of the exam, simply because this is going to be a test unlike any other you have ever taken before. And people are going to look at you kind of crazy when you're studying for this exam because it's a bunch of shapes and they're going to think, why is this person studying shapes? But this is really going to test your knowledge of 3-dimensional space. And this is something that's really crucial in dentistry because dentists need to be able to recognize the curvatures, the angles of different teeth, and make sure that when they're done working on a crown, for example, that not only do those teeth occlude and have a, strong functional aspect, they also need to look good too and have that aesthetic aspect as well. So this is something that might seem pointless, but there is a point here. But anyway, this section is broken down into 6 different subsections, each one that's pretty different from the other. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to devote a single podcast episode to each of these sections to help you guys understand and talk about the key strategies to use to maximize your success while taking these tests, because they're quite tricky, they're quite difficult. I might even do some videos on them actually, so you guys can visually see me working through problems. But the key thing here is just to do as many practice problems as you possibly can. That's the way you're going to get better and quicker and more efficient at these questions. But stay tuned for further episodes on each of these sections. I will go over them and share my personal strategies that I used to help me do well on this section. But overall, there are a total of 90 questions, and you'll have 60 minutes to complete all 90 questions. So as you can see, you got to be cooking through these. You have less than a minute per question. So efficiency is the key to achieving success in the PAT. And following the first two sections, when you actually take the test, you will take those first two sections, the Survey of the Natural Sciences and the PAT, back to back, and then you'll have a short 15-minute break. And one thing to be really cautious of during your break is you have 15 minutes and your computer will automatically go right into the next section, whether you're there or not. In order to leave the testing room, most times you're going to have to enter your fingerprint and you'll have to go through a metal detector. So just make sure you're making efficient use of that time. If you need to use the bathroom, get a snack, do it quickly, and then just get right back to your test. Following this short break, you're going to have a reading comprehension test, which honestly, it's very similar to your ACT or SAT standardized reading sections, except the 3 passages that you'll have to read are more science-based. And you'll have 60 minutes to complete 50 questions, and there are 3 passages you'll have to read. And one of the strategies, I didn't honestly study this section too much, and it honestly just depends on the person, how strong of a reader you are, but I took advantage of the numbering of each paragraph. So let's say there's a passage about viruses, and in paragraph 3, it talked about the viral replication cycle. So all I would do is write 3 and then replication cycle next to it. So if there's a question regarding the replication cycle, I could look at my notes and, refer back to paragraph 3 specifically so I know where that information is. That's just something I used and something that I found quite helpful. And then the final section of the exam is the Quantitative Reasoning test, which is pretty much, again, a standardized ACT math section. You're going to see math problems that you haven't done in years, and I think that's honestly the hardest part. Another reason why this might be a harder section is that it's simply the last section, so you're going to be mentally fatigued by this time. But my best advice, brush up on your math. If there's anything or any particular type of questions that you have problems with, just make sure you study up in those specific areas. So that's pretty much a basic overview of the DAT and what you're going to be up against. But what I want to talk about now is the sign-up process, because not many pre-dental students know about this, and I kind of want to clear it up. So the first thing that you're going to need to get to sign up for the DAT is a dent pin, and I will leave a link in the show notes that will direct you right to that page that you can sign up for. But what pretty much a dent pin is used for is to tie your name in your application to your DAT score. So this is something that's very important and you're going to want to keep track of throughout your application cycle and the DAT process. Now, once you have a dent pin, you're going to want to go to Prometric.com. And again, I'll leave the link in the show notes so you can easily click it and it'll direct you right there. But pretty much what this is going to do is allow you to see the testing centers in your area and the available dates to take the test. Now, I wouldn't recommend signing up 60 days in advance. I would not do that. I would sign up exactly 6 months from the date that you want to take the test, and that way you're committed and you can come up with a study plan. Now, if you're interested in my personal study plan, I spent 5 months studying, and if you want to see a breakdown of week by week and day by day of exactly what I studied and for how long, head on over to Amazon and check out the Ultimate Pre-Dental Guide. This is a book I published just this past December. It has a lot of useful tips and tricks that I learned personally that helped me efficiently navigate my pre-dental career and ultimately achieve successful dental school admission. And before I go, I just want to quickly talk about some different types of materials that you can use to help you study for the DAT. I personally used 2 different sources, and that is the Gold Standard. It is a 4-book series, each book dedicated to one section of the test. At the end of each book, you have practice problems and practice DATs, and I just found it really helpful as a beginning study source simply because of how organized it is, and I was able to learn a lot of different strategies and just gain a really good general understanding of the test. And this is kind of what I used for the first couple months while I was studying for the DAT, and I found extremely helpful. So again, I'll leave a link in the show notes to these books that you guys can head over to Amazon and check it out and purchase it if you think that it'll be useful to you. It certainly was useful to me, so I really suggest that study source. And then when you're really ready to kick it up a notch, and this would be maybe a couple months, 2 months before you take the exam, DAT Boot Camp. This is the second source I personally used, and I absolutely loved it because it really aligned with my kind of philosophy of this 90-10 rule. It's just practice question after practice question. It has so many different practice tests that are available to you. And honestly, it's relatively cheap compared to some other study methods or study sources. And one thing that a lot of pre-dental members talk to me about is the Kaplan course. And I have not personally used the Kaplan course, but this is my suggestion to you. If you're somebody who is a self-starter and you are able to study on your own and don't really need anybody to hold you accountable just for studying, I would suggest not getting the $2,000 Kaplan course. I think it's a waste of money, and if you're somebody who can study efficiently on your own and develop a study schedule and stick with it, you don't necessarily need that online course. I will suggest, though, if you want the Kaplan book, definitely go ahead and pick that up. It just all the more power to you, more practice questions, and a different company to study from, because every company is going to word their questions a little bit differently. So the more different companies or different brands you study from, the more rounded perspective you'll have on the DAT. And so that's pretty much what I had planned for this episode. I hope you guys found this helpful. If you did, or you would like some further advice on different study methods, or even if you'd like a one-on-one conference call with me to talk about getting into dental school or the DAT in particular, go ahead and send me a message. I would love to do that for you. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to see you guys in the next episode. My name is Brandon Evert, signing out.